From MinTech, the Micro Nano Technology Education Center, this is Talking Technicians, the podcast about technicians, who they are, what they do, and where they come from. I'm your host, Peter Kazarnoff. I teach technicians and engineers at Portland Community College. In each episode, you'll meet a working technician and hear their story. That means real interviews with real technicians about real jobs. At the end of each episode, you'll hear actions you can take if you want to be a technician too. In this episode, you'll meet Corey. Corey works at MSEI in Lake Oswego, Oregon, outside Portland. Corey, welcome to Talking Technicians.
Thanks, Peter. I'm glad to be here.
Corey, tell me about where you live and how long have you been there?
So I live in Wilsonville, Oregon right now. I've lived there for 3 years but I've lived in Oregon for most of my life.
And did you grow up close to Wilsonville?
I grew up in Salem, Oregon.
And is there anyone else in your household right now?
No, there's not.
So tell me a little bit about where you work. What is MSEI and what's your job title?
MSEI is Micro Systems Engineering Incorporated. I am currently a technical specialist there. I was recently promoted to a technical specialist about a month and a half ago, but I originally started as a production specialist, which is basically like it's a hybrid between an operator and a technician. And this role is basically a combination of both of those. It's essentially someone who can run the equipment, but it also repairs and maintain it. And then I was promoted to the grave shift lead, which I led a small team in completing shipments, directing equipment utilization, and then I was meeting with engineering team to discuss daily operations. More recently, I was promoted to a technical specialist. My normal tasks are making long-term sustainable improvements to our preventative maintenance. I also work with our SAP systems in production to improve upon our maintenance systems.
Do you work in shifts or do you have a regular 9-to-5 schedule?
I currently work in a 6:30 to 3 schedule, but we do have 3 alternating shifts, a day, swing, and grave for our normal production.
You mentioned that MSEI does a bunch of work. How does MSEI's work help improve the world and make things better for everyone?
MSEI is a microelectronic designer and developer, and we primarily create pacemakers and defibrillators, both internal, and then we also make other like microelectronic devices.
And for those that don't know, how are pacemakers and defibrillators helpful? How do those help save lives?
A pacemaker, internal pacemaker, is a rhythmatic control for patients' hearts. So it helps align them to a natural heart rhythm. And defibrillators are internal, so they provide a shock to somebody that is entering cardiac arrest to try to revitalize their heartbeat.
So that sounds like it's a really important function and that you're really improving the world with your work.
Yes, these devices are life-saving.
So you mentioned that you had a bunch of opportunities for professional growth. What other opportunities are there at MSEI for technicians?
There is definitely a lot of opportunity for professional growth here at MSEI. As I said earlier, I've definitely experienced some of it. I initially went from a production specialist to a shift lead to a technical specialist. It's a common occurrence that we promote within. We always like to improve kind of like that growth, that level of growth for people. I definitely feel that it is a company where effort is always rewarded. I put in a lot of effort myself, and it was always appreciated by everyone around me and my superiors.
How do you communicate with other technicians and other folks that you work with?
I communicate with them both in person and electronically.
And besides other production specialists, what kind of job roles do you work with day to day?
I work with engineering groups that are the owners of the equipment. So we help improve maintenance systems. We go over our standard daily, monthly maintenance with them.
Do you remember, Corey, what it felt like your first day of work? Do you remember what it felt like the first time you walked into MSEI?
During my first days, it was pretty overwhelming because I graduated as a mechanical engineering technician, and it was a very large change of pace because I was dealing entirely with electronics. So I had some basic circuit analysis, but I was dealing with very complex circuits diagrams. Initially, it was difficult, but using some of the problem solving skills that I learned and with help from my team, I was able to have good on the job training. So now I'm able to actually understand those to higher level documents to a much greater extent.
So, how did you get to where you are now? What was your work experience before your current role?
I used to do computer repair. Before I decided I wanted to do something more, I wanted to find a career instead of just a job. So I went back to Portland Community College and enrolled in the mechanical engineering technology program, a program which I really enjoyed. It was really engaging with a large range of subjects. Like, for instance, one term we went from water analysis to material properties to thermodynamics.
What were some of the things that you learned in that 2-year technician education program that you now use at your job?
One of the most important skills that I learned at the technology program was some of the problem solving skills. A lot of the courses I took didn't directly translate to my current job, but I really used that problem solving methods that I developed dealing with homework and exams from the courses.
And did you learn everything that you needed when you became a technician at MSEI? Or was MSEI able to give you additional training so that you could be productive at work?
The classes gave me a good foundation and starting points. I was able to navigate much better my systems when I got to MSEI. MSEI helped kind of refine all those points and teach me the details of what I needed.
What was the toughest part of school for you, Corey? What was most difficult when you were at community college?
To me, the hardest part was the exams, not because they were difficult, because more of just being nervous, making easy mistakes.
And what's something unexpected about working as a technician that you only learned after you started?
To me, it was surprising at first how important sustaining methods are. In school, everything was finite. After you've turned in the exam or finished the project, you were done. You moved on to the next piece of homework, next test, next course. Now, for me at MSCI, the ability to follow through a project after it's finished is key. To me, what makes a great project is the ability to sustain it. So if you are releasing a project, no matter how much effort you put into creating that project, if you don't follow through with it, it's going to fall apart.
Corey, how did your life change when you became a technician? What's different now compared to when you were a student at community college?
Working here at MSCI, it's a really fulfilling job. I always feel like my work is at least improving something. I because we create life-saving devices, any amount of improvement to making that better, making more efficient, more effective is always feeling good, because at the end, I'm helping make an improvement in other people's lives.
Corey, what advice would you give current students or people who want to transition careers and work in your industry?
I would recommend anyone that wants to transition careers to start building skill sets. I'm constantly finding new skills that are useful that I want to learn, but I'd recommend first starting with soft skills. Soft skills to me can make or break opportunities. Simple things like showing up on time, being prepared, and communication are some of the most valuable things I find. I feel much more confident leading important tasks to people that have good soft skills.
Corey, do you have a final call to action for students or people who want to become a technician like you?
I think the most important thing is to find a area or field that you want to go into first, and then start working away from there. For instance, myself, I was interested in this position because I saw the devices that were created at MSEI, and I thought of what positions I could get from there. Instead of starting with, I want this job, let's find all my spots, because it's possible to find a job for a company maybe you might not like working for.
Corey, thank you so much for sharing your story with me and being on Talking Technicians.
Thank you, Peter. It was nice being here.
Please keep in touch.
I will.
Talking Technicians is produced by MNTech, the Micro Nano Technology Education Center, through financial support from the National Science Foundation's Advanced Technological Education Grant Program. Opinions expressed on this podcast do not necessarily represent those of the National Science Foundation. Join the conversation. If you are a working technician or know someone who is, reach out to us at info@talkingtechnicians.org. We're always looking out for great guests to share more stories with you.